All right, we are coming up on 8 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get things started, shall we? Welcome back. This is our second night of reading from the Odyssey. Last night was really just laying the groundwork and starting to see the characters and see a lot of the backgrounds. The first part of the book, the third, I'd say, quarter or so, are really focusing on Telemachus, Odysseus' son, and how he's struggling at home, and how the absence of his father for all these years has been really starting to drain and be detrimental to the family, the home, and himself. He's put on a good front, and he's grown up really well, and we've seen time and time again that he's running into really good people. And from the lens of the Greeks, they're really God-fearing and respectful, and really just good sorts to help out a boy or a young man that is going out to try and find his father, or find word of him, or find some possible way to end the strife that has overtaken his home. And we'll see in the very opening, we saw that the gods themselves had gathered and were discussing the end of Odysseus' exile. He'd been away since the end of the Trojan campaign. Almost all of the others that were going to come home already have, but he alone was left in the lurch, stranded and captured on Calypso's island, and where she's continually trying to press her wiles. We haven't seen anything of Odysseus yet, but I'm sure it'll be soon. We left off about halfway through a chapter last time. It was a bit of a doozy, and we didn't want to run too far over. So we can jump right back into the thick of things tonight. Yeah, literally. So, these days you get them going out for milk, and Odysseus is like, "Sorry, Penelope, I am going out for a war." Gotta go pull back the Helena of Troy, save a friend's to-be wife. That's always, the Iliad's weird. But yes, absentee fathers causing problems, been going on since forever. So let's go ahead and jump right back into it, that's actually timely, because they're talking with Menelaus and Helena right now. So they're at the root of the problem. So let's go ahead and get back into it. We will finish this chapter that we left part way, and then we'll go and see where things develop and where we turn next. And so now we resume partway through Book 4. And Menelaus of the fair hair answered her, saying, "Verily, all this tale, lady, thou hast duly told. Ere now have I learned the counsel of the thought of many heroes, and travelled over many a land, but never have yet mine eyes beheld any such man of heart as was Odysseus. Such another deed as he wrought and dared in his hardiness, even in the shapen horse, wherein sat all we chiefs of the Argives, bearing to the Trojans death and doom. Anon thou camest thither, and sure some god must have bidden thee, who wished to bring glory to the Trojans. Yea, and godlike Deiphobus went and with thee on thy way. Thrice thou didst go round about the hollow ambush and handle it, calling aloud on the chiefs of the Argives by name, and making thy voice like the voices of the wives of all the Argives. Now I and the son of Tydeus, and goodly Odysseus sat in the midst and heard thy call, and verily we twain had a desire to start up and come forth or presently to answer from within, but Odysseus stayed and held us there, despite our eagerness. Then all the other sons of the Achaeans held their peace, but Anticlus alone was still minded to answer thee. Howbeit Odysseus firmly closed his mouth with strong hands, and so saved all the Achaeans, and held him until such time as Pallas Athene led thee back. Then wise Telemachus answered him and said, Menelaus, son of Atreus, fosterling of Zeus, leader of the host, all the more grievous it is, for in no way did this courage ward from him pitiful destruction, not though his heart within him had been very iron. But come, bid us to bed, that forthwith we may take our joy of rest beneath the spell of sleep. So spake he, and Argive Helen bade her handmaids set out bedsteads beneath the gallery, and fling on them fair purple blankets, and spread coverlets above, and thereon lay thick mantles to be clothing over all. So they went from the hall with torch in hand, and spread the beds, and the henchmen led forth the guests. Thus they slept there in the vestibule of the house, the hero Telemachus, and the splendid son of Nestor. But the son of Atreus slept, as his custom was, in the innermost chamber of the lofty house, and by him lay long-robed Helen, that fair lady. Soon as early dawn shone forth, the rosy-fingered Menelaus of the loud war shout gat him up from his bed, and put on his raiment, and cast his sharp sword about his shoulder, and beneath him his smooth feet bound his goodly sandals, and stepped forth from his chamber, in presence like a god, and sat by Telemachus, and spake and hailed him. To what end hath thy need brought thee hither, hero Telemachus, unto fair Lacedaemon, over the broad back of the sea? Is it a matter of the common weal, or of thine own? Herein tell me the plain truth. Then wise Telemachus answered him, and said, Menelaus, son of Atreus, fosterling of Zeus, leader of the host, I have come, if perchance thou mayest tell me some tidings of my father. My dwelling is being devoured, and my fat lands are ruined, and of unfriendly men my house is full, who slaughter continually my thronging flocks, and my kine with trailing feet and shambling gait. None other than the wooers of my mother, despiteful out of measure. So now am I come hither to thy knees, if haply thou art willing to tell me of his pitiful death, as one that saw it perchance with thine own eyes, or heard the story from some other wanderer, for his mother bare him to exceeding sorrow. And speak me no soft words in ruth or pity, but tell me plainly how thou didst get sight of him. Ah, I pray thee, if ever at all my father, good Odysseus, made promise to thee of word or work, and fulfilled the same in the land of the Trojans, where ye Achaeans suffered affliction, these things I pray thee, now remember and tell me truth. Then, in heavy displeasure, spake to him Menelaus of the fair hair, Out upon them, for truly in the bed of a brave-hearted man were they minded to lie, very cravens as they are. Even as when a hind hath couched her newborn fawns unweaned in a strong lion's lair, and searcheth out the mountain knees and grassy hollows, seeking pasture, and afterward the lion cometh back to his bed, and sendeth forth unsightly death upon that pair, even so shall Odysseus send forth unsightly death upon the wooers. Would to our father Zeus and Athene and Apollo, would that in such might as when of old established Lesbos he rose up and wrestled a match with Philomelides, and threw him mightily, and all the Achaeans rejoiced. Would that in such strength Odysseus might consort with the wooers. Then should they have all swift fate and bitter wedlock. But for that whereof thou askest and entreatest me, be sure I will not swerve from the truth in aught that I say, nor deceive thee. But of all that the ancient one of the sea, whose speech is sooth, declared to me, not a word will I hide or keep from thee. In the river Aegyptus, though eager I was to press onward home, the gods, they stayed me, for that I had not offered them the acceptable sacrifice of hecatombs, and the gods ever desired that men should be mindful of their commandments. Now there is an island in the wash of the waves over against Aegyptus, and men call it Pharos. Within 1 day's voyage of a hollow ship, when shrill winds blow fair in her wake, and therein is a good haven, whence men launch the gallant ships into the deep when they have drawn a store of deep black water. There the gods held me 20 days, nor did the sea winds ever show their breath, they that served to waft ships over the broad back of the sea, and now would all our corn have been spent, and likewise the strength of the men, except some goddess had taken pity on me and saved me, Idathe, daughter of mighty Proteus, the ancient one of the sea. For most of all I moved her heart, when she met me wandering alone apart from my company, who were ever roaming around the isle, fishing with bent hooks, for hunger was gnawing at their belly. So she stood by, and spake, and uttered her voice, saying, Thou art so very foolish, stranger, and feeble-witted, or art thou wilfully remiss, and hast pleasure in suffering? So long time art thou holden in the isle, and canst find no issue therefrom, while the heart of thy company faileth within them. Even so she spake, And I answered her, saying, I will speak forth, what goddess soever thou art, and tell thee that in no wise am I holden here by mine own will, but it needs must be that I have sinned against the deathless gods, who keep the wide heaven. Howbeit, do tell me, for the gods know all things, which of the immortals is it that binds me here and hath hindered me from my way, and declare as touching my returning how I may go over the teeming deep. So I spake, and straightway the fair goddess made answer, Yea now, sir, I will plainly tell thee all. Hither resorteth that ancient one of the sea, whose speech is sooth, the deathless Egyptian Proteus, who knows the depths of every sea, and is the thrall of Poseidon, and who, they say, is my father that begat me. If thou couldst but lay an ambush and catch him, he will surely declare to thee the way and the measure of thy path, and will tell thee of thy returning, how thou mayest go over the teeming deep. Yea, and he will show thee, O fosterling of Zeus, if thou wilt, what good thing and what evil hath been wrought in thy halls, whilst thou hast been faring this long and grievous way. So she spake, but I answered and said unto her, Devise now thyself the ambush, to take this ancient one divine, lest by any chance he see me first, or know of my coming, and avoid me, for a god is hard for mortal man to quell. So spake I, and straightway the fair goddess made answer, Yea now, sir, I will plainly tell thee all. So often as the sun in his course stands high in mid-heaven, then forth from the brine comes the ancient one of the sea, whose speech is sooth. Before the breath of the west wind he comes, and the sea's dark ripple covers him. When he has got forth, he lies down to sleep in the hollow of the caves. And round him the seals, the brood of the fair daughter of the brine, sleep all in a flock, stolen from the grey sea water, and bitter is the scent they breathe of the deeps of the salt sea. There will I lead thee at the breaking of the day, and count you all orderly. So do thou choose diligently 3 of thy company, the best thou hast in thy decked ships. And I will tell thee all the magic arts of that old man. First, he will number the seals and go over them, but when he has told their tale and beheld them, he will lay down in the midst as a shepherd mid the sheep of his flock. So soon as ever ye shall see him couched, even then mind you of your might and strength, and hold him there, despite his eagerness and striving to be free, and he will make essay, and make all manner of shapes of things that creep upon the earth, of water likewise, and of fierce fire burning. But do ye grasp him steadfastly, and press him yet more, and at length, when he questions thee in his proper shape, as he was when first ye laid him to rest, then, hero, hold thy strong hands, and let the ancient one go free, and ask him which of the gods is hard upon thee, and as touching thy returning, how thou mayest go over the teeming deep. Therewith she dived beneath the heaving sea, but I betook me to the ships where they stood in the sand, and my heart was darkly troubled as I went. But after I had come down to the ship and to the sea, and we had made ready our supper, and a mortal night had come on, then did we lay us to rest upon the sea beach. So soon as early dawn shone forth, the rosy-fingered, in that hour I walked by the shore of the wide-waved sea, praying it instantly to the gods, and I took with me 3 of my company, in whom I trusted most for every enterprise. Meanwhile, so it was that she had plunged into the broad bosom of the sea, and had brought from the deep the skins of 4 sea calves, and all were newly flayed, for she was minded to lay a snare for her father. She scooped lairs on the sea sand, and sat awaiting us, and we drew very nigh her, and she made us all lie down in order, and cast a skin over each. There would our ambush have been most terrible, but for the deadly stench of the sea-bred seals distressed us sore. Nay, who would lay him down by a beast of the sea? But herself she wrought deliverance, and devised a great comfort. She took ambrosia of a very sweet savour, and set it beneath each man's nostril, and did away with the stench of the beast. So all the morning we waited with steadfast heart, and the seals came forth in troops from the brine, and then they couched them all orderly by the sea beach, and at high day the ancient one came forth from out of the brine, and found his fatted seals. Yea, and he went among their line, and told their tale. And first among the sea beasts he reckoned us, and guessed not that there was guile. And afterward he too laid him down. Then we rushed upon him with a cry, and cast our hands about him, nor did that ancient one forget his cunning. Now behold, at the first he turned into a bearded lion, and thereafter into a snake, and a pard, and a huge boar. Then he took the shape of running water, and of a tall and flowering tree. We the while held him close with steadfast heart. But when now that ancient one of the magic arts was aweary, then at last he questioned me, and spake unto me, saying, Which of the gods was it, son of Atreus, that aided thee with his counsel, that thou mightest waylay and take me perforce? What wouldest thou thereby? Even so he spake, but I answered him, saying, Old man, thou knowest all. Wherefore dost thou question me thereof with crooked words? For lo, I am holden long time in this isle, neither can I find any issue therefrom, and my heart faileth within me. Howbeit do thou tell me, for the gods know all things, which of the immortals it is that bindeth me here, and hath hindered me from my way, and declare, as touching my returning, how I may go over the teeming deep. Even so I spake, and he straightway answered me, saying, Nay, surely thou shouldest have done goodly sacrifice to Zeus and the other gods ere thine embarking, that with most speed thou mightest reach thy country, sailing over the wine-dark deep. For it is not thy fate to see thy friends, and come to thy established house in thine own country, till thou hast passed yet again within the waters of Aegyptus, the heaven-fed stream, and offered holy hecatombs to the deathless gods who keep the wide heaven. So shall the gods grant thee the path which thou desirest. So spake he, but my spirit within me was broken. For that he bade me again to go to Aegyptus, over the misty deep, a long and grievous way. Yet even so I answered him, saying, Old man, all this will I do, according to thy word. But come, declare me this, and tell it all plainly. Did all those Achaeans return safe with their ships, all whom Nestor and I left as we went from Troy? Or perished any by a shameful death aboard his own ship, or in the arms of his friends, after he had wound up for the clue of war? So spake I, and anon he answered me, saying, Son of Atreus, why dost thou straightly question me hereof? Nay, it is not for thy good to know or learn my thought, for I tell thee thou shalt not long be tearless, when thou hast heard it all aright. For many of these were taken, and many were left, but 2 only of the leaders of the mail-coated Achaeans perished in returning. As for the battle, thou thyself wast there, and one, methinks, is yet alive, and is holden on the wide deep. Aias, in truth, was smitten in the midst of his ships of the long oars. Poseidon at first brought him nigh to Gyrae, to the mighty rocks, and delivered him from the sea. And so he would have fled his doom, albeit hated by Athene, had he not let a proud word fall in the fatal darkening of his heart. He said that in the gods, despite, he had escaped the great gulf of the sea, and Poseidon heard his loud boasting, and presently caught up his trident in his strong hands, and smote the rock Gyraean, and cleft it in twain. And the one part abode in his place, the other fell into the sea. The broken piece whereon Aias sat was at the first, when his heart was darkened. And the rock bore him down into the vast and heaving deep, so there he perished, when he had drunk of the salt sea water. But thy brother verily escaped the fates, and avoided them in his hollow ships, for Queen Hera saved him. But now, when he was like soon to reach the steep mount of Malea, lo, the storm wind snatched him away, and bore him over the teeming deep, making great moan to the border of the country whereof old Thyestes dwelt. But now Aegisthus abode there, the son of Thyestes. But when thence too there showed a good prospect of safe returning, and the gods changed the wind to a fair gale, and they had reached home, then verily did Agamemnon set foot with joy upon his country's soil. And as he touched his own land, he kissed it, and many were the hot tears he let fall, for he saw his land and was glad. And it was so that the watchman spied him from his tower, the watchman whom crafty Aegisthus had led and posted there, promising him for a reward 2 talents of gold. Now he kept watch for the space of a year, lest Agamemnon should pass by him when he looked but not, and mind him of his wild prowess. So he went to the house to bear the tidings to the shepherd of the people, and straightway Aegisthus contrived a cunning treason. He chose out 20 of the best men in the township, and set an ambush. And on the further side of the hall he commanded to prepare a feast. Then with chariot and horses he went to bid to the feast Agamemnon, shepherd of the people. But caitiff thoughts were in his heart. He brought him up to his house, all unwitting of his doom. And when he had feasted him, slew him, as one slayeth an ox at the stall, and none of the company of Atreides that were of his following were left, nor any of the men of Aegisthus, but they were all killed in the halls. Okay, so Atreides and getting betrayed. It's not the first time we've seen that, huh? So spake he, and my spirit within me was broken, and I wept as I sat upon the sand, nor was I minded any more to live and see the light of the sun. But when I had taken my fill of weeping, and grovelling on the ground, then spake the ancient one of the sea, whose speech is sooth. No more, son of Atreus, hold this long weeping without cease, for we shall find no help therein. Rather, with all haste make essays, that so thou mayest come to thine own country. For either thou shalt find Aegisthus yet alive, or it may be Orestes was beforehand with thee and slew him. So mayest thou chance upon his funeral feast. So he spake, and my heart and lordly soul again were comforted for all my sorrow. And I uttered my voice, and I spake to him my winged words. Their fate I now know. But tell me of the third. Who is it that is yet living and holden on the wide deep, or perchance is dead? And fain would I hear despite my sorrow. So spake I, and straightway he answered, and said, It is the son of Laertes, whose dwelling is in Ithaca. And I saw him in an island shedding big tears in the halls of the nymph Calypso, who holds him there perforce, so he may not come home to his country. For he has by him no ships with oars, and no companions to send him on his way over the broad back of the sea. But thou, Menelaus, son of Zeus, art not ordained to die and meet thy fate in Argos, the pasture land of horses. But the deathless gods will convey thee to the Elysian plain and the world's end. Where is Rhadamanthus of the fair hair, where life is easiest for men? No snow is there, nor yet great storm, nor any rain, but always ocean sendeth forth the breeze of the shrill west to blow cool on men. Yea, for thou hast Helen to wife, and thereby they deem thee to be the son of Zeus. So spake he, and plunged into the heaving sea. But I betook me to the ships with my godlike company, and my heart was darkly troubled as I went. Now, after I had come down to the ship and to the sea, and had made ready our supper, and a mortal night had come on, then did we lay us to rest upon the sea beach. So soon as early dawn shone forth, the rosy-fingered, first of all we drew down our ships to the fair salt sea, and placed the masts and the sails in the gallant ships. And the crew too climbed on board, and sat upon the benches, and smote the grey sea water with their oars. Then back I went to the waters of Aegyptus, and the heaven-fed stream, and there I moored the ships, and offered the acceptable sacrifice of hecatombs. So when I had appeased the anger of the everlasting gods, I piled a barrow to Agamemnon, that his fame might never be quenched. So having fulfilled all, I set out for home, and the deathless gods gave me a fair wind, and brought me swiftly to mine own dear country. But lo, now tarry in my halls till it shall be the 11th day hence, or the 12th. Then I will send thee with all honor on thy way, and give thee splendid gifts, 3 horses and a polished car, and moreover I will give thee a goodly chalice, that thou mayest pour forth before the deathless gods, and be mindful of me all the days of thy life. Then wise Telemachus answered him, saying, Son of Atreus, nay, hold me not long time here. Yea, even for a year would I be content to sit by thee, and no desire for home or parents would come upon me, for I take wondrous pleasure in thy tales and talk. But already my company wearieth in fair Pylos, and yet thou art keeping me long time here. And whatsoever gift thou wouldst give me, let it be a thing to treasure. But horses I will take none to Ithaca, but leave them here to grace thine own house. For thou art lord of a wide plain, where is lotus great plenty, and therein is spear-reed and wheat and rye, and white and spreading barley. In Ithaca there are no wide courses, nor meadow land at all, It is a pasture land of goats, and more pleasant in my sight than one that pastureth horses. For the isles that lie and lean upon the sea, none are fit for the driving of horses, or rich in meadowland, and least of all is Ithaca. So spake he, and Menelaus of the loud war cry smiled, and caressed him with his hand, and spake and hailed him. Thou art of gentle blood, dear child, so gentle the words thou speakest. Therefore I will make exchange of the presents as I may. Of the gifts, such as are treasures stored in my house, I will give thee the goodliest and greatest of price. I will give thee a mixing bowl beautifully wrought. It is all of silver, and the lips thereof are finished with gold, the work of Hephaestus, and the hero Phaedimus. The king of the Sidonians gave it to me, when his house sheltered me on my coming thither. And to thee now would I give it. Even so they spake one to another, while the guests came to the palace of the divine king. They drave their sheep, and brought wine that maketh glad the heart of man. And their wives with fair tire sent them wheaten bread. Thus were these men preparing the feast in the halls. But the wooers, meantime, were before the palace of Odysseus, taking their pleasure in casting of weights and spears on a level place, as heretofore in their insolence. And Antinous and godlike Eurymachus were seated there, the chief men of the wooers, who were far the most excellent of all. And Noemon, son of Phromius, drew nigh to them, and spake unto Antinous, and questioned him, saying, Antinous, know we at all, or know we not, when Telemachus will return from sandy Pylos? He hath departed with a ship of mine, and I have need thereof, to cross over into spacious Elis, where I have 12 broodmares, with hardy mules unbroken at the teat. I would drive off one of these and break him in. So spake he, and they were amazed, for they deemed not that Telemachus had gone to Nelean Pylos, but that he was at home somewhere in the fields, whether among the flocks or with the swineherd. Then Antinous, son of Euphaethes, spake to him in turn. Tell me the plain truth. When did he go, and what noble youths went with him? Were they chosen men of Ithaca, or hirelings and thralls of his own? He was in case to bring even that about. And tell me in good sooth, that I may know for a surety, did he take thy black ship from thee perforce against thy will, or didst thou give it him of free will at his entreaty? Then Noemon, son of Phromius, answered him, saying, I gave it him myself of free will. What can any man do when such an one, so bestead with care, begs a favor? It were hard to deny the gift. The youths who stood next to us are noblest in the land. Even these had gone with him, and I marked their leader on board ship, Mentor, or a god who in all things resembled Mentor. But one matter I marvel at. I saw the goodly Mentor here yesterday toward dawn, though already he had embarked for Pylos. He spake, and withal departed to his father's house. And the proud spirits of these twain were angered, and they made the wooers sit down together and cease from their games. And among them spake Antinous, son of Euphaethes, in displeasure. And his black heart was wholly filled with rage, and his eyes were like flaming fire. Out on him! Proud deed hath Telemachus accomplished with a high hand, even this journey, and we thought that he would never bring it to pass. This lad hath clean gone without more ado, in spite of us all. His ship he hath let haul to the sea, and chosen the noblest in the township. He will begin to be our bane even more than heretofore. But may Zeus destroy his might, not ours, ere he reach the measure of manhood. But come, give me a swift ship and 20 men, that I may lie in watch and wait even for him on his way home, in the strait between Ithaca and rugged Samos, that so he may have a woeful end of his cruising in quest of his father. So spake he, and they all assented thereto, and bade him to the work. And thereupon they arose and went to the house of Odysseus. Now it was no long time before Penelope heard of the counsel that the wooers had devised in the deep of their heart. For the henchman Medon told her thereof, who stood without the court and heard their purposes, while they were weaving their plot within. So he went on his way through the halls to bring the news to Penelope, and as he stepped down over the threshold, Penelope spake unto him. henchman, wherefore hath the noble wooers sent me forth? Was it to tell the handmaids of divine Odysseus to cease from their work, and prepare a banquet for them? Nay, after thus much wooing, never again may they come together. But here, this day, sup for their last and latest time, all ye who assemble so often, and waste much livelihood, the wealth of wise Telemachus. Long ago, when ye were children, ye marked not your fathers telling what manner of man was Odysseus among them, one that wrought no iniquity toward any man, nor spake aught unrighteous in the township, as is the wont of divine kings. One man a king is like to hate, another he might chance to love, but never did he do aught at all presumptuously to any man. Nay, it is plain what spirit ye are of, and your unseemly deeds are manifest to all, nor is there any gratitude left for kindness done. Then Medon, wise of heart, answered her, Would, O queen, that this were the crowning evil! But the wooers devise another far greater and more grievous, which I pray the son of Cronos may never fulfill. They are set on slaying Telemachus with the edge of the sword on his homeward way, for he has gone to fair Pylos and goodly Lacedaemon to seek tidings of his father. So spake he, but her knees were loosened where she stood, and her heart melted within her, and long time was she speechless. And lo, her eyes were filled with tears, and the voice of her utterance was stayed. And at the last she answered him and said, Henchman, wherefore I pray thee is my son departed? There is no need that he should go abroad on swift ships, that serve men for horses on the sea, and that cross the great wet waste. Is it that even his own name may no more be left upon earth? Then Medon, wise of heart, answered her, I know not whether some god set him on, or whether his own spirit stirred him to go to Pylos to seek tidings of his father's return, or to hear what end he met. He spake and departed through the house of Odysseus, and on her fell a cloud of consuming grief, so that she might no more endure to seat her on a chair, whereof there were many in the house. But there she crouched on the threshold of her well-builded chamber, wailing piteously, and her handmaids round her made low moan, as many as were in the house with her, young and old, and Penelope spake among them, pouring forth her lamentation. Hear me, my friends, for the Olympian sire hath given me pain exceedingly beyond all women who were born and bred in my day. For erewhile I lost my noble lord of the lion heart, adorned with all perfection among the Danaans, my good lord, whose fame is noised abroad from Hellas to mid-Argos, and now again the storm winds have snatched away my well-beloved son without tidings from our halls, nor heard I of his departure. O women, hard of heart, that even ye did not each one let the thought come into your minds, to rouse me from my couch when he went to the black hollow ship, though ye knew full well thereof. For had I heard that he was purposing this journey, verily he should have stayed here still, though eager to be gone. Or have I left me dead in the halls? Howbeit, let someone make haste to call the ancient Dolius, my thrall, whom my father gave me ere yet I had come hither, who keepeth my garden of trees. So shall he go straight away to sit by Laertes, and tell him all, if perchance Laertes may weave some counsel in his heart, and go forth and make his plaint to the people, who are purposed to destroy his seed, and the seed of godlike Odysseus. Then the good nurse Euryclea answered her, Dear lady, slay me if thou wilt with the pitiless sword, or let me yet live on in the house. Yet will I not hide my saying from thee. I knew all this, and gave him whatsoever he commanded, bread and sweet wine, and he took a great oath of me not to tell thee till at least the 12th day should come, or thou thyself shouldst miss him and hear of his departure, that thou mightest not mar thy fair flesh with thy tears. But now wash thee in water, and take to thee clean raiment, and ascend to the upper chamber with the women thy handmaids, and pray to Athene, daughter of Zeus, lord of the Aegis, for so may she save him even from death, and heap not troubles on an old man's trouble. For the seed of the son of Arceisius is not, methinks, utterly hated by the blessed gods, but someone will haply yet remain to possess these lofty halls, and the fat fields far away. So spake she, and lulled her queen's lamentation, and made her eyes to cease from weeping. So she washed her in water, and took to her clean raiment, and ascended to the upper chamber with the women and her handmaids, and placed the meal for sprinkling in a basket, and prayed unto Athene, Hear me, child of Zeus, lord of the ages, unwearied maiden. If ever wise Odysseus in his halls burnt for thee fat slices of the thighs of heifer or of sheep, these things I pray thee now remember, and save my dear son, and ward from him the wooers in the naughtiness of their pride. Therewith she raised a cry, and the goddess heard her prayer. But the wooers clamored through the shadowy halls, and thus would some proud youth say, Verily, this queen of many wooers prepareth our marriage, nor knoweth at all how that for her son death hath been ordained. Thus would certain of them speak, but they knew not how these things were ordained. And Antinous made harangue and spake among them. Good sirs, my friends, shun all disdainful words alike, lest someone hear, and tell it even in the house. But come, let us arise, and in silence accomplish that whereof we spake, for the counsel pleased us every one. Therewith he chose 20 men that were the best, and they departed to the swift ship and the sea banks. So first of all they drew the ship down to the deep water, and placed the mast and the sails in the black ship, and fixed the oars in leathern hoops, all orderly, and spread forth the white sails, and squires, haughty of heart, bare for them their arms, and they moored her high out in the shore water, and themselves disembarked. There they supped and waited for evening to come on. But the wise Penelope lay there in her upper chamber, fasting, and tasting neither meat nor drink, musing whether her noble son should escape death, or even fall before the proud wooers. And as a lion broods all in fear among the press of men when they draw the crafty ring around him, so deeply was she musing when deep sleep came over her, and she sank back in sleep, and all her joints were loosened. Now the goddess, grey-eyed Athene, turned to other thoughts. She made a phantom, and fashioned it after the likeness of a woman, Ipthime, daughter of great-hearted Icarius, whom Eumelus wedded, whose dwelling was in Pherae. And she sent it to the house of divine Odysseus to bid Penelope, amid her sorrow and lamenting, to cease from her weeping and tearful lamentation. So the phantom passed into the chamber by the throng of bolt, and stood above her head, and spake unto her, saying, Sleepest thou, Penelope, stricken at heart? Nay, even the gods who live at ease suffer thee not to wail or be afflicted, seeing that thy son is yet to return, for no sinner is he in the eyes of the gods. Then Penelope made her answer as she slumbered, very softly at the gates of dreams. Wherefore, sister, hast thou come hither? What before wert not wont to come, for thou hast thine habitation very far away? Biddest thou me indeed to cease from the sorrows and pains, so many that disquiet my heart and soul? Erewhile I lost my noble lord of the lion heart, adorned with all perfection among the Danaans, my true lord, whose fame is noised abroad from Hellas to mid-Argos. And now again, my well-beloved son is departed on his hollow ship. Poor child, not skilled in toils or in the gatherings of men, for whom I sorrow yet more than for my lord, and I tremble and fear for him lest aught befall him. Whether it may be amid the folk where he is gone, or in the deep, for many foemen devise evil against him, and go about to kill him, or ever he come to his own country. And the dim phantom answered her, and said, Take courage, and be not so sorely afraid, for lo, such a friend goes to guide him, as all men pray to stand by them, and for that she hath the power, even Pallas Athene, and she pitieth thee in thy sorrow, and now hath sent me forth to speak these words to thee. And wise Penelope answered her, saying, If thou art indeed a god, and hast heard the word of a god, come, I pray thee, and tell me tidings concerning that ill-fated man, whether perchance he is yet alive and sees the light of the sun, or hath already died, and is a dweller in the house of Hades. And the dim phantom answered her, and said, Concerning him I will not tell thee all the tale. Whether he be alive or dead, it is ill to speak words light as wind. Therewith the phantom slipped away by the bolt of the door, and passed into the breath of the wind. and the daughter of Icarius started up from sleep, and her heart was cheered. So clear was the vision that sped toward her in the dead of the night. Meanwhile, the wooers had taken ship and were sailing over the wet waves, pondering in their hearts sheer death for Telemachus. Now there is a rocky isle in the mid-sea, midway between Ithaca and rugged Samos, Asteris, a little isle, and there is a harbor therein with a double entrance, where ships may ride. There the Achaeans abode, lying in wait for Telemachus. Brings us to the end of book 4. So there was a lot that happened in that one, between the start before our break when Telemachus was visiting the old comrades of his father and trying to find word that hopefully that some of them, any of them, knew something about him. And then finally coming to Menelaus and speaking with Helen of Troy and finally getting some sort of word of what had happened to Odysseus and why he was the only one who had not come home that hadn't died. And then we had that immediate shift to have the glimpse back home and see how Telemachus's voyage had been found out, and how the wooers, the suitors chasing after Penelope had all decided that maybe they should be done with Telemachus once and for all. But the gods don't necessarily agree, and as Athena has shown favor on Odysseus and Telemachus, she also shows it to Penelope and gives some comfort and some wise counsel. So we'll see now from what the next book holds, and what else will happen, if we're going to see more of Telemachus, or if it's finally time to switch perspective over to Odysseus. And so let's begin with book 5. The gods, in council, command Calypso by Hermes to send away Odysseus on a raft of trees. And Poseidon, returning from Ethiopia and seeing him on the coast of Phaeacia, scattered his raft. And how, by the help of Ino, he was thrown ashore and slept on a heap of dry leaves till the next day. Now the dawn arose from her couch, from the side of the lordly Tithonus, to bear light to the immortals and to mortal men, and lo, the gods were gathering to session, and among them Zeus, that thunders on high, whose might is above all. And Athene told him of the tale of the many woes of Odysseus, recalling them to mind, for near her heart was he that then abode in the dwelling of the nymph. Father Zeus, and all ye other blessed gods that live forever, henceforth let not any sceptred king be kind and gentle with all his heart, nor minded to do righteously, but let him always be a hard man, and work unrighteousness. For behold, there is none that remembereth divine Odysseus of the people, whose lord he was, and was gentle as a father. Howbeit, as for him, he lieth in an island suffering strong pains in the halls of the nymph Calypso, who holdeth him perforce, so he may not reach his own country. For he hath no ships by him with oars, and no companions to send him on his way over the broad back of the sea. And now again they are set on slaying his beloved son on his homeward way, for he is gone to fair Pylos and to goodly Lacedaemon to seek tidings of his father. And Zeus, gatherer of the clouds, answered and spake unto her, My child, what word hath escaped the door of thy lips? Nay, didst thou not thyself plan this device, that Odysseus may assuredly take vengeance on those men at his coming? As for Telemachus, do thou guide him by thine art, as well as thou mayest, that so he may come to his own country all unharmed, and the wooers may return in their ship with their labor all in vain. Therewith he spake to Hermes, his dear son. Hermes, for as much as even in all else thou art our herald, tell unto the nymph of the braided tresses my unerring counsel, even the return of the patient Odysseus, how he is to come to his home with no furtherance of gods or of mortal men. Nay, he shall sail on a well-bound raft in sore distress, and on the 20th day arrive at fertile Scheria, even at the land of the Phaeacians, who are near of kin to the gods. and they shall give him all worship heartily as to a god, and send him on his way in a ship to his own dear country, with gifts of bronze and gold, and raiment in plenty, much store, such as never would Odysseus have won for himself out of Troy, yea, though he had returned unhurt with the share of the spoil that fell to him. On such wise is he fated to see his friends, and come to his high-roofed home and his own country. So spake he, nor heedless was the messenger, the slayer of Argos. Straightway he bound beneath his feet his lovely golden sandals, that waxed not old, that bear him alike over the wet sea and over the limitless sand, swift as the breath of the wind. And he took the wand wherewith he lulls the eyes of whomso he will, while others again he even wakes from out of sleep. With this rod in his hand he flew, the strong slayer of Argos. Above Pieria he passed, and leapt from the upper air into the deep. Then he sped along the wave like the cormorant, that chaseth the fishes through the perilous gulfs of the unharvested sea, and wetteth his thick plumage in the brine. Such like did Hermes ride upon the press of the waves. But when he had now reached that far-off isle, he went forth from the sea violet blue to get him up into the land, till he came to a great cave, wherein dwelt the nymph of the braided tresses. And he found her within, and on the hearth there was a great fire burning, and from afar through the isle was smelt the fragrance of cleft cedar blazing, and of sandalwood. And the nymph within was singing with a sweet voice, as she fared to and fro before the loom, and wove with a shuttle of gold. And round about the cave there was a wood blossoming, alder and poplar and sweet-smelling cypress, and therein roosted birds, long of wing, owls and falcons and chattering sea-crows, which have their business in the waters. And lo, there about the hollow cave trailed a gadding garden vine, all rich with clusters, and fountains four set orderly were running with clear water, hard by one another, turned each to his own course. And all around soft meadows bloomed of violets and parsley. Yea, even a deathless god who came thither might wonder at the sight and be glad of heart. There the messenger, the slayer of Argos, stood and wondered. Now, when he had gazed at all with wonder anon, he went into the wide cave. Nor did Calypso, that fair goddess, fail to know him, when she saw him face to face. For the gods use not to be strange one to another, the immortals, not though one have his habitation far away. But he found not Odysseus, the great-hearted, within the cave, who sat weeping on the shore, even as aforetime, straining his soul with tears and groans and griefs. And as he wept, he looked wistfully over the unharvested deep, and Calypso, that fair goddess, questioned Hermes, when she had made him sit on a bright shining seat. Wherefore, I pray thee, Hermes, of the golden wand, hast thou come hither? Worshipful and welcome, whereas as of old thou wert not wont to visit me. Tell me all thy thought, my heart is set on fulfilling it. Fulfill it I may, and if it hath been fulfilled in the counsel of fate, but now follow me further, that I may set before thee the entertainment of strangers. Therewith the goddess spread a table with ambrosia and set it by him, mixed with the ruddy nectar. So the messenger, the slayer of Argos, did eat and drink. Now, after he had supped and comforted his soul with food, at the last he answered, and spake to her on this wise. Thou makest question of me on my coming, a goddess of a god, and I will tell thee this my saying truly, at thy command. 'Twas Zeus that bade me come hither, by no will of mine. Nay, who of his free will would speed over such a wondrous space of brine, whereby is no city of mortals that do sacrifice to the gods, and offer choice hecatombs? But surely it is in no wise possible for another god to go beyond, or to make void the purpose of Zeus, lord of the aegis. He saith that thou hast with thee a man most wretched beyond his fellows, beyond those men that round the burg of Priam for 9 years fought, and in the 10th year sacked the city and departed homeward. Yet on the way they sinned against Athene, and she raised upon them an evil blast and long waves of the sea. Then all the rest of his good company was lost. But it came to pass that the wind bare and the wave brought him hither, And now Zeus biddeth thee send him hence with what speed thou mayest. For it is not ordained that he die away from his friends, but rather it is his fate to look on them even yet, and to come to his high-roofed home and his own country. So spake he, and Calypso, that fair goddess, shuddered and uttered her voice, and spake unto him winged words. Hard are ye gods, and jealous exceeding. Who ever grudged goddesses openly to mate with men? If any make a mortal her dear bedfellow. Even so, when rosy-fingered Dawn took Orion for her lover, ye gods that live at ease were jealous thereof, till chaste Artemis of the golden throne slew him in Ortygia with the visitation of her gentle shafts. So too, when fair trace Demeter yielded to her love and lay with Iason in the thrice-ploughed fallow field, Zeus was not long without tidings thereof, and cast at him with his white bolt and slew him. So again ye gods now grudge that a mortal man should dwell with me. Him I saved as we went all alone bestriding the keel of a bark, for that Zeus had crushed, and cleft his swift ship with a white bolt in the midst of wine-dark deep. There all the rest of his good company was lost. But it came to pass that the wind bare, and the wave brought him hither. And him have I loved and cherished, and I said that I would make him to know not death and age forever. Yet forasmuch as it is no wise possible for another god to go beyond, or make void the purpose of Zeus, Lord of the ages, let him away over the unharvested seas, if the summons and the bidding be of Zeus. But I will give him no dispatch, not I, for I have no ships by me with oars, nor company to bear him on his way over the broad back of the sea. Yet will I be forward to put this in his mind, and will hide not, that all unharmed he may come to his own country. Quick aside, Calypso kind of spitting here, because Zeus, bastards everywhere, kids everywhere, half-godlings, demigods, all over the Mediterranean. But as soon as a goddess tries to get it on with a regular mortal man, oh, wrath and vengeance be upon thee. That double standard, though. Come on. Come on. Then the messenger, the slayer of Argos, answered her, Yea, speed him now upon his path, and have regard unto the wrath of Zeus, lest haply he be angered and bear hard on thee hereafter. Therewith the great slayer of Argos departed, but the lady nymph went on her way to the great-hearted Odysseus, when she had heard the message of Zeus, and there she found him sitting on the shore, and his eyes were never dry of tears, and his sweet life was ebbing away as he mourned for his return, for the nymph no more found favor in his sight. Howsoever, by night he would sleep by her, as needs he must, in the hollow caves, unwilling lover by a willing lady, and in the daytime he would sit on the rocks and on the beach, straining his soul with tears and groans and griefs, and through his tears he would look wistfully over the unharvested deep. So standing near him, that fair goddess spake to him, Hapless man, sorrow no more, I pray thee, in this isle, nor let thy good life waste away. For even now will I send thee hence with all my heart. Nay, arise and cut long beams, and fashion a wide raft with the axe, and lay deckings high thereupon, that it may bear thee over the misty deep, and I will place therein bread and water and red wine to thy heart's desire, to keep hunger far away. And I will put raiment upon thee, and send a fair gale in thy wake, that so mayest come all unharmed to thine own country, if indeed it be the good pleasure of the gods, who hold wide heaven, who are stronger than I both to will and to do. So she spake, and the steadfast, goodly Odysseus shuddered, and uttering his voice spake to her winged words, Herein, goddess, thou hast plainly some other thought, and in no wise my furtherance, for that thou biddest me to cross in a raft the great gulf of the sea so dread and difficult, which not even the swift gallant ships pass over, rejoicing in the breeze of Zeus. Nor would I go aboard a raft to displeasure thee, unless thou wilt deign, O goddess, to swear a great oath not to plan any hidden guile to mine own hurt. So spake he, and Calypso, the fair goddess, smiled and caressed him with her hand, and spake and hailed him. Knavish thou art, and no weakling in wit. Thou hast conceived and spoken such a word. Let earth be now witness hereto, and the wide heaven above, and that falling water of the Styx, the greatest oath and the most terrible to the blessed gods, that I will not plan any hidden guile to thine own hurt. Nay, but my thoughts are such, and such will be my counsel, as I would devise for myself, if ever so sore a need came over me. For I too have a righteous mind, and my heart within me is not of iron, but pitiful, even as thine. Therewith the fair goddess led the way quickly, and he followed hard in the steps of the goddess. And they reached the hollow cave, the goddess and the man, and he sat down upon the chair whence Hermes had arisen, and the nymph placed by him all manner of food to eat and drink, such as is meet for men. As for her, she sat over against divine Odysseus, and the handmaids placed by her ambrosia and nectar. So they put forth their hands upon the good cheer set before them. But after they had taken their fill of meat and drink, Calypso, the fair goddess, spake first and said, Son of Laertes, of the seed of Zeus, Odysseus of many devices, so it is indeed thy wish to get thee home to thine own dear country, even in this hour? Good fortune go with thee even so. Yet didst thou know in thine heart what a measure of suffering thou art ordained to fulfill? Or ever thou reach thine own country here, even here, thou wouldst abide with me and keep this house, and wouldst never taste of death. Though thou longest to see thy wife, for whom thou hast ever desired day by day, not in sooth that I avow me to be less noble than she in form or fashion. For it is in no wise meet that mortal women should match them with immortals in shape and comeliness. And Odysseus of many counsels answers, and spake unto her, Be not wroth with me hereat, goddess and queen. Myself, I know it well, how wise Penelope is meaner to look upon than thou, in comeliness and stature. But she is mortal, and thou knowest not age nor death. Yet even so, I wish and long day by day to fare homeward and see the day of my returning. Yea, and if some god shall wreck me in the wine-dark deep, even so I will endure, with a heart within me patient of affliction. For already have I suffered full much, and much have I toiled in perils of waves and war. Let this be added to the tale of those. So spake he, and the sun sank and darkness came on. Then they twain went into the chamber of the hollow rock, and had their delight of love, abiding by each by other. So soon as early dawn shone forth, the rosy-fingered anon Odysseus put on him a mantle and doublet, and the nymph clad her in a great shining robe, light of woof and gracious, and about her waist she cast a fair golden girdle, and a veil withal upon her head. Then she considered of the sending of Odysseus, the great-hearted. She gave him a great axe, fitted to his grasp, an axe of bronze double-edged, and with a goodly handle of olive wood fastened well. Next she gave him a polished adze, and she led the way to the border of the isle, where tall trees grew, alder and poplar and pine that reacheth unto heaven, seasoned long since and sere, that might lightly float for him. Now, after she had shown him where the tall trees grew, Calypso, the fair goddess, departed homeward, and he set to cutting timber, and his work went busily. 20 trees in all he felled, and then trimmed them with the axe of bronze, and deftly smoothed them, and over them made straight the line. Meanwhile Calypso, the fair goddess, brought him augers, so he bored each piece and jointed them together, and then made all fast with trenails and dowels, wide as is the floor of a broad ship of burden, which some man well skilled in carpentry may trace him out. Of such beam did Odysseus fashion his broad raft. And thereat he wrought, and set up the deckings, fitting them to close set uprights, and finished them off with long gunwales. And there he set a mast, and a yardarm fitted thereto, and moreover he made him a rudder to guide the craft, and he fenced it with wattled osier withies from stem to stern, to be a bulwark against the wave, piled up wood to back them. Meanwhile Calypso, the fair goddess, brought him a web of cloth to make him sails. And these two he fashioned very skillfully. And he made fast therein braces and halyards and sheets, and at last he pushed the raft with levers down to the fair salt sea. It was the 4th day when he had accomplished all, and lo, on the 5th, the fair Calypso sent him on his way from the island, when she had bathed him and clad him in fragrant attire. Moreover, the goddess placed on board the ship 2 skins, one of dark wine, and another, a great one, of water, and corn too in a wallet. And she set therein a store of dainties to his heart's desire, and sent forth a warm and gentle wind to blow. And goodly Odysseus rejoiced as he set his sails to the breeze, and so he sate and cunningly guided the craft with the helm. Nor did his sleep fall upon his eyelids as he viewed the Pleiades and Bootes, that setteth late, and the bear, which they likewise call the wain, which turneth ever in one place, and keepeth watch over Orion, and alone hath no part in the baths of ocean. This star, Calypso, the fair goddess, bade him keep ever on the left as he traversed the deep. 10 days and 7 he sailed traversing the deep, and on the 18th day appeared the shadowy hills of the land of the Phaeacians, at the point where it lay nearest to him, and it showed like a shield in the misty deep. Now the Lord, the shaker of the earth, on his way from the Ethiopians, espied him afar off from the mountains of the Solomine. Even thence he saw Odysseus as he sailed over the deep, and he was mightily angered in spirit, and shaking his head he communed with his own heart, Lo now, it must be that the gods at the last have changed their purpose concerning Odysseus, while I was away among the Ethiopians. And now he is nigh to the Phaeacian land, where it is ordained that he escape the great issues of the woe which hath come upon him. But, methinks, that even yet I will drive him far enough in the path of suffering. With that he gathered the clouds and troubled the waters of the deep, grasping his trident in his hands, and he roused all storms of all manner of winds, and shrouded in clouds the land and sea. And down sped night from heaven. The east wind and the south wind clashed, and the stormy west and the north, that is born in the bright air, rolling onward a great wave. Then were the knees of Odysseus loosened, and his heart melted, and heavily he spake to his own great spirit. O wretched man that I am, what is to befall me at the last? I fear that indeed the goddess spake all things truly, who said that I should fill up the measure of sorrow on the deep, or ever I came to mine own country. And lo, all these things have an end. In such wise doth Zeus crown the wide heaven with clouds, and hath troubled the deep, and the blasts rush on of all the winds. Yea, now is utter doom assured me. Thrice blessed those Danaans, yea, 4 times blessed, who perished on a time in wide Troy land, doing a pleasure to the sons of Atreus. Would to God that I too had died, and met my fate on that day when the press of Trojans cast their bronze-shod spears upon me, fighting for the body of the son of Peleus. So should I have gotten my dues of burial, and the Achaeans would have spread my fame. But now it is my fate to be overtaken by a pitiful death. Even as he spake, the great wave smote down upon him, driving on in terrible wise, that the raft reeled again, and far therefrom he fell, and lost the helm from his hand. And the fierce blast of the jostling winds came and brake his mast in the midst, and sail and yardarm fell afar into the deep. Long time the water kept him under, nor could he speedily rise from beneath the rush of the mighty wave, for the garments hung heavy, which fair Calypso gave him. But late, and at length he came up, and spat forth from his mouth the bitter salt water, which ran down in streams from his head. Yet even so forgat he not his raft, for all his wretched plight, but made a spring after it in the waves, and clutched it to him, and sat in the midst thereof, avoiding the issues of death. And the great waves swept it hither and thither along the stream, and at the north wind, in the harvest tide, reaps the thistledown along the plain, and close the tufts clinging each to other. Even so the winds bear the raft hither and thither along the main. Now the south would toss it to the north to carry, and now again the east would yield it to the west to chase. But the daughter of Cadmus marked him, Ino of the fair ankles. Fair ankles. Okay. Leucothea, who in time past was a maiden of mortal speech. But now, in the depths of the salt sea, she had gotten her share of worship from the gods. She took pity on Odysseus in his wandering and travail, and she rose, like a seagull on the wing, from the depth of the mere, and sat upon the well-bound raft, and spake, saying, Hapless one, wherefore was Poseidon, shaker of the earth, so wondrous wroth with thee, seeing that he soweth for thee the seeds of many evils? Yet shall he not make a full end of thee, for all his desire, but do even as I tell thee, and methinks thou art not witless. Cast off these garments, and leave the raft to drift before the winds, but do thou swim with thine hands, and strive to win a footing on the coast of the Phaeacians, where it is decreed that thou escape. Here, take this veil imperishable, and wind it about thy breast, so it is there no fear that thou suffer aught or perish. But when thou hast laid hold of the mainland with thy hands, loose it from off thee, and cast it into the wine-dark deep, far from the land, and thyself turn away. And with that, the goddess gave the veil, and for her part dived back into the heaving deep, like a seagull, and the dark wave closed over her. But the steadfast, goodly Odysseus pondered, and heavily he spake to his own brave spirit. Ah, woe is me! Can it be that someone of the immortals is weaving a new snare for me, that she bids me quit my raft? Nay, verily, I will not yet obey, for I had sight of the shore yet a long way off, where she told me that I might escape. I am resolved what I will do, and methinks on this wise it is best. So long as the timbers abide in the dowels, so long will I endure steadfast in affliction. But so soon as the wave hath shattered my raft asunder, I will swim, for meanwhile no better counsel may be. While yet he pondered these things in his heart and soul, Poseidon, shaker of the earth, stirred against him a great wave, terrible and grievous, and vaulted from the crest, and therewith smote him. And as when a great tempestuous wind tosseth a heap of parched husks, and scatters them this way and that, even so did the wave scatter the long beams of the raft. But Odysseus bestrode a single beam, and as one rideth on a courser, and stripped him of the garments which fair Calypso gave him. And presently he wound the veil beneath his breast, and fell prone into the sea, outstretching his hands as one eager to swim. And the Lord, the shaker of the earth, saw him, and shook his head, and communed with his own soul. Even so, after all thy sufferings, go wandering over the deep, till thou shalt come among a people, the fosterlings of Zeus. Yet for all that I deem not that thou shalt think thyself too lightly afflicted. Therewith he lashed his steeds of the flowing manes, and came to Aegea. Where is Aegea? Where is his lordly home? But Athene, daughter of Zeus, turned to new thoughts. Behold, she bound up the courses of the other winds, and charged them all to cease and be still. But she roused the swift north, and brake the waves before him, so that Odysseus of the seed of Zeus might mingle with the Phaeacians, lovers of the oar, avoiding death and the fates. So for 2 nights and 2 days was he wandering in the swell of the sea. Yep, alright, calm down, Paige. Alright. So for 2 nights and 2 days he was wandering in the swell of the sea, and much his heart boded of death. But when at last the fair tressed dawn brought the full light of the 3rd day, thereafter the breeze fell, and lo, there was a breathless calm. And with a quick glance ahead, he being upborne on a great wave, he saw the land very near. And even as when most welcome to his children is the sight of a father's life, who lies in sickness and strong pains, long wasting away, some angry god assailing him, and to their delight the gods have loosed him from his trouble. So welcome to Odysseus showed land and wood, and he swam onward, being eager to set foot on the strand. But when he was within earshot of the shore, and heard now the thunder of the sea against the reefs, for the great wave crashed against the dry land, belching in terrible wise, and all was covered with foam of the sea. For there were no harbors for ships nor shelters, but jutting headlands and reefs and cliffs. Then, at last, the knees of Odysseus were loosened, and his heart melted, and in heaviness he spake to his own brave spirit. Ah me! Now that beyond all hope Zeus hath given me sight of land, and withal I have cloven my way through this gulf of the sea, here there is no place to land on from out of the grey water. For without are sharp crags, and around them the wave roars surging, and sheer the smooth rock rises, and the seas deep thereby. So that in no wise may I find firm foothold, and escape my bane. For as I fain would go ashore, the great wave may haply snatch and dash me on the jagged rock, and a wretched endeavour that would be. But if I swim yet further along the coast to find, if I may, spits that take the waves aslant, and havens of the sea, I fear lest the storm winds catch me again, and bear me over the teeming deep, making heavy moan. Or else some god may even send forth against me a monster from out of the shore water, and many such pastureth the renowned Amphitrite. For I know how wroth against me hath been the great shaker of the earth. Whilst yet he pondered these things in his heart and mind, a great wave bore him to the rugged shore. There would he have been stripped of his skin and all of his bones been broken, but that the goddess, grey-eyed Athene, put a thought into his heart. He rushed in, and with both hands clutched the rock, whereto he clung till the great wave went by. So he escaped that peril, but again with backward wash it leapt on him and smote him and cast him forth into the deep. And as when the cuttlefish is dragged forth from his chamber, the many pebbles clinging to his suckers, even so was the skin stripped from his strong hands against the rocks, and the great wave closed over him. There of a truth would luckless Odysseus have perished beyond that which was ordained, had not grey-eyed Athene given him sure counsel. He rose from the line of the breakers that belch upon the shore, and swam outside, ever looking landwards, to find, if he might, spits that take the waves aslant, and havens of the sea. But when he came in his swimming over the mouth of a fair flowing river, whereby the place seemed best in his eyes, smooth of rocks, and withal there was a covert from the wind, Odysseus felt the river running, and prayed to him in his heart, Hear me, O king! Whosoever thou art, unto thee am I come, as to one to whom prayer is made, while I flee the rebukes of Poseidon from the deep. Yea, reverend, even to the deathless gods is that man who comes as a wanderer. Even as I now have come to thy stream, and to thy knees after much travail, nay, pity me, O king, for I avow myself thy supplicant. So spake he, and the god straightway stayed his stream and withheld his waves, and made the water smooth before him, and brought him safely to the mouths of the river. And his knees bowed, and his stout hands fell, for his heart was broken by the brine, and his flesh was all swollen, and a great stream of sea water gushed up through his mouth and nostrils. So he lay without breath or speech, swooning. Such terrible weariness came upon him. But when now his breath returned, and his spirit came to him again, he loosed from him the veil of the goddess, and let it fall into the salt-flowing river. And the great wave bare it back down the stream, and lightly Ino caught it in her hands. Then Odysseus turned from the river, and fell back in the reeds, and kissed earth, the grain-giver, and heavily he spake unto his own brave spirit. Ah, woe is me! What is to betide me? What shall happen unto me at the last? If I watch the riverbed all through the careful night, I fear that the bitter frost and fresh dew may overcome me as I breathe forth my life for faintness. For the river breeze blows cold betimes in the morning. But if I climb the hillside up to the shady wood, and there take rest in the thickets, though perchance the cold and weariness leave hold of me, and sweet sleep may come over me, I fear lest of wild beasts I become the spoil and prey. So as he thought thereon, this seemed to him the better way. He went up to the wood, and found it nigh the water in a place of wide prospect. So he crept beneath twin bushes that grew from one stem, both olive trees, one of them wild olive. Through these the force of the wet winds blew never. Neither did the bright sun light on it with his rays, nor could the rain pierce through, so close were they twined either to other, and thereunder crept Odysseus, and anon he heaped together with his hands a broad couch. For of fallen leaves there was a great plenty, enough to cover 2 or 3 men in winter-time, however hard the weather. And the steadfast, goodly Odysseus beheld it and rejoiced. And he laid him in the midst thereof, and flung over him the fallen leaves. And as when a man hath hidden away a brand in the black embers at an upland farm, one that hath no neighbours nigh, and so saveth the seed of fire, that he may not have to seek a light otherwhere. Even so did Odysseus cover him with the leaves, and Athene shed sleep upon his eyes, so that it might soon release him from his weary travail, overshadowing his eyelids. That brings us to the end of Book 4, where we finally get the view from Odysseus' aspect, where the gods had finally come together to send him on his way, and Calypso to set him free. Apparently not before having a little bit of a good time in the cave. Must have been some good cheer to let him know that he was finally able to be on his way. And then even Poseidon came back, still terribly angry with him, and crashing his well-made wow, I can't even think of the word now. His raft to pieces. But then yet one more goddess came by to give him that last little push to help. So as ever with Odysseus, the gods are both best friends and biggest enemies. That shows through even back in the Iliad, where he was beloved by Athena, but still found a way to piss them off on the regular. Man just can't help himself. Alright, that was a bit of a long chapter, so let's take a quick break. I need to stretch my legs a little bit, check on the cats. They're suspiciously quiet right now. And then we will be back in just a few minutes to continue on. And we'll see where we go from there. We are back. They're actually both sitting right behind the desk, so we will have a little bit of a visitation. All right. All right, next one looks to be a shorter chapter, so we'll be able to get through pretty well, and then we will go see what's in store for poor Odysseus, and see whether or not he'll catch a break. Seems to be, even when he's being rescued from the pits of despair, he's thrashed and thrown about and damn near killed. And so we continue now with Book 6. Nausicaa, going to a river near that place to wash the clothes of her father, mother, and brethren, while the clothes were drying, played with her maids at ball. And Odysseus, coming forth, is fed and clothed, and led on his way to the house of her father, King Alcinous. So there he lay asleep, the steadfast, goodly Odysseus, fordone with toil and drowsiness. Meanwhile, Athene went to the land in the city of the Phaeacians, who of old, upon a time, dwelt in spacious Hyperia. Near the Cyclopes they dwelt, men exceeding proud, who harried them continually, being mightier than they. Thence the godlike Nostheus made them depart, and he carried them away and planted them in Scheria, far off from men that live by bread. And he drew a wall around the town, and builded houses, and made temples for the gods, and meted out the fields. Howbeit, ere this had he been stricken by fate, and had gone down to the house of Hades. And now Alcinous was reigning, with wisdom granted by the gods. To his house went the goddess, grey-eyed Athene, devising a return to the great-hearted Odysseus. She betook her to the rich wrought bower, wherein was sleeping a maiden like to the gods in form and comeliness, Nausicaa, the daughter of Alcinous, high of heart. Beside her on either hand of the pillars of the door were two handmaids, dowered with beauty from the Graces, and the shining doors were shut. But the goddess, fleet as the breath of the wind, swept towards the couch of the maiden, and stood above her head, and spake to her in the semblance of the daughter of a famous seafarer Demas, a girl of like age with Nausicaa, who had found grace in her sight. In her shape, the grey-eyed Athene spake to the princess, saying, Nausicaa, how hath thy mother so heedless a maiden to her daughter? Lo, thou hast shining raiment that lies by thee uncared for, and thy marriage day is near at hand, when thou thyself must needs go beautifully clad, and have garments to give to them who shall lead thee to the house of the bridegroom. And behold, these are the things whence a good report goes abroad among men, wherein a father and lady mother take delight. But come, let us arise and go a-washing with the breaking of the day, and I will follow with thee, to be thy mate in the toil, that without delay thou mayst get thee ready, since truly thou art not long to be a maiden. Lo, already they are wooing thee, the noblest youths of all the Phaeacians, among that people whence thou thyself dost draw thy lineage. So come, beseech thy noble father betimes in the morning to furnish thee with mules and a wain to carry the men's raiment, and the robes, and the shining coverlets. Yea, and for thyself it is seemlier far to go thus than on foot, for the places where we must wash are a great way off the town. So spake the grey-eyed Athene, and departed to Olympus, where, as they say, is the seat of the gods that standeth fast forever. Not by winds is it shaken, nor ever wet with rain, nor doth the snow come nigh thereto, but most clear air is spread about it cloudless, and the white light floats over it. Therein the blessed gods are glad for all their days. And thither Athene went when she had shown forth all to the maiden. Anon came the throned dawn, and awakened Nausicaa to the fair robes, who straightway marveled on the dream, and went through the halls to tell her parents, her father dear and her mother. And she found them within, her mother sitting by the hearth with the women her handmaids, spinning yarn of sea-purple stain. But her father she met as he was going forth to the renowned kings in their council, whither the noble Phaeacians called him. Standing close by her dear father, she spake, saying, Father, dear, wouldst thou not lend me a high wagon with strong wheels, that I may take the goodly raiment to the river to wash, so much as I have lying soiled? Yea, and it is seemly that thou thyself, when thou art with the princes in council, shouldst have fresh raiment to wear. Also there are 5 dear sons of thine in the halls, 2 married, but 3 are lusty bachelors, and these are always eager for new washen garments wherein to go to the dances. For all these things I have taken thought. This she said, because she was ashamed to speak of glad marriage to her father. But he saw all, and answered, saying, Neither the mules nor aught else do I grudge thee, my child. Go thy ways, and the thralls shall get thee ready a high wagon with good wheels, and fitted with an upper frame. And therewith he called to his men, and they gave ear. And without the palace they made ready the smooth-running mule wain, and led the mules beneath the yoke, and harnessed them under the car, while the maiden brought forth from her bower the shining raiment. This she stored in the polished car, and her mother filled a basket with all manner of food to the heart's desire. Dainties, too, she set therein. And she poured wine into a goatskin bottle, while Nausicaa climbed into the wain, and her mother gave her soft olive oil also in a golden cruse, that she and her maidens might anoint themselves after the bath. Then Nausicaa took the whip and the shining reins, and touched the mules to start them. Then there was a clatter of hoofs, and on they strained without flagging, with their load of the raiment, and the maiden, not alone did she go, for her attendants followed with her. It's very difficult for me right now just to pronounce Nausicaa the way it is here. It is very well stuck in my head to say it as if, like Nausicaa, like from Ghibli. But I will try not to slip. We'll see. Now, when they were come to the beautiful stream of the river, where truly were the unfailing cisterns, and bright water welled up free from beneath, and flowed past, enough to wash the foulest garments clean, there the girls unharnessed the mules from under the chariot, and turning them loose, they drove them along the banks of the eddying river to graze on the honey-sweet clover. Then they took the garments from the wain in their hands, and bore them to the black water, and briskly trod them down in the trenches, in busy rivalry. Now, when they had washed and cleansed all the stains, they spread all out in order along the shore of the deep, even where the sea, in beating on the coast, washed the pebbles clean. Then, having bathed and anointed them well with olive oil, they took their midday meal on the river's banks, waiting till the clothes should dry in the brightness of the sun. Anon, when they were satisfied with food, the maidens and the princess, they fell to playing at ball, casting away their tires. And among them Nausicaa of the white arms began the song, and even as Artemis the archer moveth down the mountain, either along the ridges of lofty Taygetus or Erymanthus, taking her pastime in the chase of boars and swift deer, and with her the wild wood nymphs disport them, the daughters of Zeus, lord of the Aegis, and Leto is glad at heart. While high over all she rears her head and brows, and easily may she be known, but all are fair. Even so the girl unwed outshone her maiden company. But when now she was about going homewards, after yoking the mules and folding up the goodly raiment, then grey-eyed Athene turned to other thoughts, that so Odysseus might awake, and see the lovely maiden, who should be his guide to the city of the Phaeacian men. So then the princess threw the ball at one of her company. She missed the girl, and cast the ball into the deep eddying current, whereat they all raised a piercing cry. Then the goodly Odysseus awoke and sat up, pondering in his heart and spirit, Woe is me! To what men's land am I come now? Say, are they froward, and wild, and unjust, or are they hospitable, and of God-fearing mind? How shrill a cry of maidens rings round me, of the nymphs that hold the steep hilltops, and the river springs, and the grassy water meadows. It must be, methinks, that I am near men of human speech. Go to, I myself will make trial, and see. Therewith the goodly Odysseus crept out from under the coppice, having broken with his strong hand a leafy bough from the thick wood, to hold athwart his body, that it might hide his nakedness withal. And forth he sallied like a lion mountain bred, trusting in his strength, who fares out blown and rained upon, with flaming eyes amid to the kine he goes, or amid the sheep, or in the track of the wild deer. Yea, his belly bids him go even to the good homestead to make essay upon the flocks. Even so, Odysseus was fain to draw nigh to the fair-dressed maidens, all naked as he was. Such need had come upon him, but he was terrible in their eyes, being marred with the salt sea foam, and they fled cowering here and there about the jutting spits of shore. And the daughter of Alcinous alone stood firm, for Athene gave her courage of heart, and took all trembling from her limbs. So she halted, and stood over against him. And Odysseus considered whether he should clasp the knees of the lovely maiden, and so make his prayer, or should stand as he was, apart, and beseech her with smooth words, if, haply, she might show him the town, and give him raiment. And as he thought within himself, it seemed better to stand apart, and beseech her with smooth words, lest the maiden should be angered with him, if he touched her knees. So straightway he spake a sweet and cunning word. I supplicate thee, O Queen, whether thou art a goddess or a mortal, if indeed thou art a goddess of them that keep the wide heaven, to Artemis, then, the daughter of great Zeus, I mainly liken thee, for beauty and stature and shapeliness. But if thou art one of the daughters of men who dwell on earth, thrice blessed are thy father and thy lady mother, and thrice blessed thy brethren. Surely their souls ever glow with gladness for thy sake, each time they see thee entering the dance, so fair a flower of maidens. But he is of heart the most blessed beyond all who shall prevail with gifts of wooing, and lead thee to his home. Never have mine eyes beheld such an one among mortals, neither man nor woman. Great awe comes upon me as I look on thee. Yet in Delos once I saw as goodly a thing, a young sapling of a palm tree, springing by the altar of Apollo. For thither too I went, and much people with me, on that path where my sore troubles were to be. Yea, and when I looked thereupon, long time I marveled in spirit, for never grew there yet so goodly a shoot from ground, even in such wise as I wonder at thee, lady, and am astonished, and do greatly fear to touch thy knees, though grievous sorrow is upon me. Yesterday, on the 20th day, I escaped from the wine-dark deep, but all that time continually the wave bare me, and the vehement winds drave from the isle of Ogygia. And now some god has cast me on this shore, that here too methinks some evil may betide me. For I trow not that trouble will cease. The gods ere that time will yet bring many a thing to pass. But Queen, have pity on me. For after many trials, and sore to thee first of all am I come. And of the other folk, who hold this city and land, I know no man. Nay, show me the town. Give me an old garment to cast about me, if thou hadst, when thou camest here, any wrap for the linen. And may the gods grant thee all thy heart's desire. A husband and a home and a mind at one with his may they give, a good gift. For there is nothing mightier and nobler than when man and wife are of one heart and mind in a house, a grief to their foes, and to their friends great joy, but their own hearts know it best. Then Nausicaa of the white arms answered him, and said, Stranger, forasmuch as thou seemest no evil man, nor foolish, and it is Olympian Zeus himself that gives weal to men, to the good and to the evil, to each one as he will, and this thy lot doubtless is of him, and so thou must in any wise endure it. And now, since thou hast come to our city and our land, thou shalt not lack raiment, nor aught else that is due of a hapless suppliant, when he has met them who can befriend him. And I will show thee the town, and name the name of the people, the Phaeacians, hold this city and land, and I am the daughter of Alcinous, great of heart, on whom all the might and force of the Phaeacians depend. Thus she spake, and called to her maidens of the fair tresses, Halt, my maidens! Whither flee ye at the sight of a man? Ye surely do not take him for an enemy. That mortal breathes not, and never will be born, who shall come with war to the land of the Phaeacians, for they are very dear to the gods. Far apart we live in the wash of the waves, the outermost of men, and no other mortals are conversant with us. Nay, but this man is some helpless one, come hither in his wanderings, whom now we must kindly entreat, for all strangers and beggars are from Zeus, and a little gift is dear. So, my maidens, give the stranger meat and drink, and bathe him in the river, wherewithal is a shelter from the winds. So she spake, but they had halted and called each to the other, and they brought Odysseus to the sheltered place, and made him sit down, as Nausicaa bade them. The daughter of Alcinous, high of heart, beside him they laid a mantle, and a doublet for raiment, and gave him soft olive oil in the golden cruse, and bade him wash in the streams of the river. Then goodly Odysseus spake among the maidens, saying, I pray you stand thus apart, while I myself wash the brine from my shoulders, and anoint me with olive oil, for truly oil is long a stranger to my skin. But in your sight I will not bathe, for I am ashamed to make me naked in the company of fair tressed maidens. Then they went apart, and told all to their lady. But with the river the water the goodly Odysseus washed from his skin the salt scurf that covered his back and broad shoulders, and from his head he wiped the crusted brine of the barren sea. But when he had washed his whole body, and anointed him with olive oil, and clad himself in the raiment that the unwedded maiden gave him, then Athene, the daughter of Zeus, made him greater and more mighty to behold, and from his head caused deep curling locks to flow like the hyacinth flower. And as when some skilful man overlays gold upon silver, one that Hephaestus and Pallas Athene have thought all manner of craft, and full of grace is his handiwork, even so did Athene shed grace about his head and shoulders. Then to the shore of the sea went Odysseus apart, and sat down, glowing in beauty and grace. And the princess marveled at him, and spake among her fair-tressed maidens, saying, Listen, my white-armed maidens, and I will say somewhat. Not without the will of all the gods who hold Olympus hath this man come among the godlike Phaeacians. Erewhile he seemed to me uncomely, but now he is like the gods that keep the wide heaven. Would that such an one might be called my husband, dwelling here, and that it might please him here to abide. But come, my maidens, give the stranger meat and drink. Thus she spake, and they gave ready ear and hearkened, and set beside Odysseus meat and drink. And the steadfast, goodly Odysseus did eat and drink eagerly, for it was long since he had tasted food. Now Nausicaa of the white arms had another thought. She folded the raiment, and stored it in the goodly wain, and yoked the mules strong of hoof, and climbed herself into the car. Then she called on Odysseus, and spake and hailed him, Up now, stranger, rouse thee to go to the city, that I may convey thee to the house of my wise father, where I promise thee thou shalt get knowledge of all the noblest of the Phaeacians. But do thou even as I tell thee, and thou seemest a discreet man enough. So long as we are passing along the fields of farms and men, do thou fare quickly with the maidens behind the mules and the chariot, and I will lead the way. But when we set foot within the city, whereby goes a high wall with towers, and there is a fair haven on either side of the town, and narrow is the entrance, and curved ships are drawn up on either hand of the mole, for all the folk have stations for their vessels, each man one for himself, and there is the place of assembly, about the goodly temple of Poseidon, furnished with heavy stones, deep bedded in the earth. There men look to the gear of the black ships, hawsers and sails, and they are fine down the oars, for the Phaeacians care not for bow nor quiver, but for masts and oars and of ships and gallant barks, wherein rejoicing they crossed the grey sea. Their ungracious speech it is that I would avoid, lest some man afterward rebuke me, and there are but too many insolent folk among the people. And someone of the baser sort might meet me and say, Who is this that goes with Nausicaa, this tall and goodly stranger? Where found she him? Her husband he will be, her very own. Either she has taken in some shipwrecked wanderer of strange men, for no men dwell near us, or some god has come in answer to her instant prayer. From heaven has he descended, and will have her to wife for evermore. Better so, if herself she has ranged abroad, and found a lord from a strange land. For verily she holds in no regard the Phaeacians here in this country, the many men and noble who are her wooers. So will they speak, and this would turn to my reproach. Yea, and I myself would think it blame of another maiden who did such things in despite of her friends. Her father and her mother being still alive, and was conversant with men before the day of open wedlock. But stranger, heed well what I say, that as soon as may be thou mayest gain at my father's hands an escort and a safe return, thou shalt find a fair grove of Athene, a poplar grove near the road, and a spring wells forth therein, and a meadow lies all around. There is my father's demesne, and his fruitful close. Within the sound of a man's shout from the city, sit thee down there, and wait until such time as we may have come into the city, and reached the house of my father. But when thou deemest that we have got to the palace, then go up to the city of the Phaeacians, and ask for the house of my father Alcinous, high of heart. It is easily known, and a young child could be thy guide, for nowise like it are builded the house of the Phaeacians. So goodly is the palace of the hero Alcinous. But when thou art within the shadow of the halls in the court, pass quickly through the great chamber, till thou comest to my mother, who sits at the hearth in the light of the fire, weaving yarn of sea-purple stain, a wonder to behold. Her chair is leaned against a pillar, and the maidens sit behind her, and there my father's throne leans close to hers, wherein he sits and drinks his wine, like an immortal. Pass thou by him, and cast thy hands about my mother's knees, that thou mayest see quickly, and with joy, the day of thy returning, even if thou art from a very far country. If but her heart be kindly disposed toward thee, then is there hope that thou shalt see thy friends, and come to thy well-builded house, and to thine own country. She spake, and smote the mules with the shining whip, and quickly they left behind them the streams of the river. And well they trotted, and well they paced, and she soon took heed to drive in such wise that the maidens and Odysseus might follow on foot, and cunningly she plied the leash. Then the sun set, and they came to the famous grove, the sacred place of Athene. So there the goodly Odysseus sat him down. Then straightway he prayed to the daughter of mighty Zeus, Listen to me, child of Zeus, lord of the aegis, unwearied maiden. Hear me, even now, since before thou heardest not when I was smitten on the sea, when the renowned Earthshaker smote me. Grant me to come to the Phaeacians as one dear and worthy of pity. So he spake in prayer, and Pallas Athene heard him. But she did not yet appear to him face to face, for she had regard unto her father's brother, who furiously raged against the godlike Odysseus, till he should come to his own country. And that brings us to the end of Book 6. So, we had a bit of a moment there. Odysseus came to before a princess, all but wearing just an olive leaf. And they wisely decided to maybe not bow down and approach the princess completely nude. That was probably for the best. But he's been taken in and given clothes, and arrangements have been made for him to reach out and get in touch with the king of Phoenicia, and we'll see whether he's well received, whether it be Poseidon's wrath that carries, or Athena's grace that wins the day. Let's see, it's about a quarter till. The next one's about 6 pages. Let's carry on. We might run a little over, but it won't be too bad. We should be able to finish this one without having to split up the chapter. And so we continue now with Book 7. Odysseus, being received at the house of King Alcinous, the queen after supper, taking notice of his garments, gives him occasion to relate his passage thither on the raft. Alcinous promises him a convoy for the morrow. So he prayed there, the steadfast, goodly Odysseus, while the 2 strong mules bare the princess to the town. And when she had now come to the famous palace of her father, she halted at the gateway, and round her gathered her brothers, men like to the immortals, and they loosed the mules from under the car, and carried the raiment within. But the maiden betook her to her chamber, and an aged dame from Aparea kindled the fire for her. Eurymedusa, the handmaid of the chamber, whom the curved ships upon a time had brought from Aparea, and men chose her as a prize for Alcinous, seeing that he bare rule over all the Phaeacians, and the people hearkened to him as a god. She waited on the white-armed Nausicaa in the palace halls, and she was wont to kindle the fire and prepare the supper in the inner chamber. At that same hour Odysseus roused him to go to the city, and Athene shed a deep mist about Odysseus for the favor that she bare him, lest any of the Phaeacians, high of heart, should meet him, and mock him in sharp speech, and ask him who he was. But when he was now about to enter the pleasant city, then the goddess, grey-eyed Athene, met him, in the fashion of a young maiden carrying a pitcher, and she stood over against him, and goodly Odysseus inquired of her, "My child, could thou not lead me to the palace of Lord Alcinous, who bears sway among this people? Lo, I am come here, a stranger, travel-worn from afar, from a distant land, wherefore of the folk who possess this city and country I know not any man." Then the goddess, grey-eyed Athene, answered him, saying, "Yea, now, father and stranger, I will show thee the house that thou bidst me declare, for it lies near the palace of my noble father. Behold, be silent as thou goest, and I will lead the way, and look on no man, nor question any, for these men do not gladly suffer strangers, nor lovingly entreat whoso cometh from a strange land. They trust to the speed of their swift ships, wherewith they cross the great gulf, for the earth-shaker hath vouchsafed them this power. Their ships are swift as the flight of a bird, or as a thought." Therewith Pallas Athene led the way swiftly, and he followed hard in the footsteps of the goddess. And it came to pass that the Phaeacians, mariners renowned, marked him not as he went down the city through their midst. For the fair-tressed Athene suffered it not, that awful goddess, who shed a wondrous mist about him for the favor that she bare him in her heart. And Odysseus marveled at the havens and the gallant ships, yea, and the places of assembly of the heroes, and the long high walls crowned with palisades, a marvel to behold. But when they had now come to the famous palace of the king, the goddess grey-eyed Athene spake first and said, "Lo, here, father and stranger, is the house that thou wouldst have me show thee, and thou shalt find kings at the feast, the fosterlings of Zeus. Enter then, and fear not in thine heart. For the dauntless man is the best in every adventure, even though he come from a strange land. Thou shalt find the queen first in the halls. Arete is the name whereby men call her, and she came even of those that begat the king Alcinous. The first Nausithous was son of Poseidon, the earth-shaker, and of Periboea, the comeliest of women, the youngest daughter of great-hearted Eurymedon, who once was king among the haughty giants. Howbeit he destroyed his infatuate people, and was himself destroyed, but Poseidon lay with Periboea, and begat a son, proud Nausithous, who sometime was prince among the Phaeacians, and Nausithous begat Rhexenor and Alcinous. While Rhexenor has as yet no son, Apollo of the silver bow smote him, and groom new wed, leaving in his halls only one child, Arete, and Alcinous took her to wife, and honored her as no other woman in the world is honored, of all that nowadays keep house under the hands of their lords. Thus she hath, and hath ever had, all worship heartily from her dear children, and from her lord Alcinous, and from all the folk, who look on her as a goddess, and greet her with reverent speech when she goes about the town. Yea, for she too hath no lack of understanding, to whomso she shows favor, even if they be men, she ends their feuds. If but her heart be kindly disposed to thee, then is there good hope that thou mayest see thy friends, and come to thy high-roofed home in thine own country." Therewith grey-eyed Athene departed over the unharvested seas, and left pleasant Scheria, and came to Marathon and wide-wayed Athens, and entered the good house of Erechtheus. Meanwhile Odysseus went to the famous palace of Alcinous, and his heart was full of many thoughts as he stood there, or ever he had reached the threshold of bronze. For there was a gleam, as it were, of sun or moon through the high-roofed hall of great-hearted Alcinous. Brazen were the walls, which ran this way and that from the threshold to the inmost chamber, and round them was a frieze of blue, and golden were the doors that closed in the good house. Silver were the doorposts that were set on the brazen threshold, and silver the lintel thereupon. And the hook of the door was of gold, and on either side stood golden hounds in silver, which Hephaestus wrought by his cunning, to guard the palace of great-hearted Alcinous. being free from death and age all their days. And within were seats arrayed against the wall this way and that, from the threshold even to the inmost chamber. And thereupon were spread light coverings, finely woven, the handiwork of women. There the Phaeacian chieftains were wont to sit eating and drinking, for they had continual store. Yea, and there were youths fashioned in gold, standing on firm set bases, with flaming torches in their hands, giving light through the night to the feasters in the palace. And he had 50 handmaids in the house, and some grind the yellow grain on the millstone, and others weave webs and turn the yarn as they sit, restless as the leaves of the tall poplar tree, and the soft olive oil drops off that linen, so closely is it woven. For as the Phaeacian men are skilled beyond others in driving a swift ship upon the deep, even so are the women the most cunning at the loom. For Athene hath given them notable wisdom in all fair handiwork and cunning wit. And without the courtyard, hard by the door, is a great garden, off our plough gates. And a hedge runs round on either side, and there grow tall trees blossoming, pear trees and pomegranates, and apple trees with bright fruit, and sweet figs and olives in their bloom. The fruit of these trees never perisheth, neither faileth winter nor summer, enduring all through all the year. Evermore the west wind blowing brings some fruits to birth, and ripens others. Pear upon pear waxes old, and apple on apple, yea, and cluster ripens upon cluster of the grape, and fig upon fig. There too hath he a fruitful vineyard planted, whereof the one part is dried by the heat, a sunny plot on level ground, while other grapes men are gathering, and yet others they are treading in the winepress. In the foremost row are unripe grapes that cast the blossom, and others there be that are growing black to vintaging. There too, skirting the furthest line, are all manner of garden beds, planted trimly, that are perpetually fresh. Therein are 2 fountains of water, whereof one scatters his streams all about the garden, and the other runs over against it beneath the threshold of the courtyard, and issues by the lofty house, and thence did the townsfolk draw water. These were the splendid gifts of the gods in the palace of Alcinous. There the steadfast, goodly Odysseus stood and gazed, but when he had gazed at all and wondered, he passed quickly over the threshold within the house, and he found the captains and the counselors of the Phaeacians pouring forth wine to the keen-sighted god, the slayer of Argos, for to him they poured the last cup, when they were minded to take rest. Now the steadfast, goodly Odysseus went through the hall, clad in a thick mist, which Athene shed around him, till he came to Arete, and the king Alcinous. And Odysseus cast his hands about the knees of Arete, and then it was that the wondrous mist melted from off him, and a silence fell on them that were within the house at the sight of him, and they marveled as they beheld him. Then Odysseus began his prayer. Arete, daughter of godlike Raxenor, after many toils am I come to thy husband and to thy knees and to these guests. And may the gods vouchsafe them a happy life, and may each one leave to his children after him his substance in his halls, and whatever dues of honor the people have rendered unto him. But speed, I pray you, my parting, that I may come the more quickly to mine own country, for already too long do I suffer affliction far from my friends. Therewith he sat him down by the hearth, in the ashes at the fire, and behold, a dead silence fell on all. And at the last, the ancient lord Echeneus spake among them, an elder of the Phaeacians, excellent in speech and skilled in much wisdom of old time. With good will he made harangue and spake among them. Alcinous, this truly is not the more seemly way, nor is it fitting that the stranger should sit upon the ground in the ashes by the hearth, while these men refrain them, waiting thy word. Nay, come, bid the stranger rise, and set him on a chair inlaid with silver, and command the henchmen to mix the wine, that we may pour forth likewise before Zeus, whose joy is in the thunder, who attendeth upon reverend suppliants, and let the housewife give supper to the stranger, out of such stores as be within. Now, when the mighty king Alcinous heard this saying, he took Odysseus, the wise and crafty, by the hand, and raised him from the hearth, and set him on a shining chair, whence he bade his son give place. Valiant Laodamas, who sat next him and was his dearest. And a handmaid bare water for the hands in a goodly golden ewer, and poured it forth over a silver basin to wash withal, and drew to his side a polished table. And a grave dame bare wheaten bread, and set it by him, and laid upon the board many dainties, giving freely of such things as she had by her. So the steadfast goodly Odysseus did eat and drink, and then the mighty Alcinous spake unto the henchman, Pontonous, mix the bowl and serve out the wine to all in the hall, that we may pour forth likewise before Zeus, whose joy is in the thunder, who attendeth upon reverend suppliants. So spake he, and Pontonous mixed the honey-hearted wine, and served it out to all, when he had poured for libation into each cup in turn. But when they had poured forth and had drunken to their heart's content, Alcinous made harangue and spake among them. Hear me, ye captains and counsellors of the Phaeacians, that I may speak as my spirit bids me. Now that the feast is over, go ye home and lie down to rest. And in the morning we will call yet more elders together, and entertain the stranger in the halls, and do fair sacrifice to the gods. And thereafter we will likewise bethink us of the convoy, that so without pain or grief yonder stranger may by our convoy reach his own country speedily, and with joy. Even though he may be from very far away, so shall he suffer no hurt or harm in mid-passage ere he set foot on his own land. But thereafter he shall endure such things as fate and the stern spinning women drew off the spindles for him at his birth when his mother bare him. But if he is some deathless god come down from heaven, then do the gods herein imagine some new device against us. For always heretofore the gods appear manifest among us, whensoever we offer glorious hecatombs, and they feast by our sides, sitting at the same board, yea, and even if a wayfarer going all alone has met with them, they use no disguise, since we are near of kin to them, even as are the Cyclopes and the wild tribes of the giants. And Odysseus, of many counsels, answered him, saying, Alcinous, that thought be far from thee, for I bear no likeness either in form or fashion to the deathless gods, who keep wide heaven, but to men that die. Whomsoever ye know of humankind, the heaviest laden with sorrow, to them might I liken myself in my griefs. Yea, and I might tell of yet other woes, even the long tale of toil that by the gods' will I endured. But as for me, suffer me to sup, afflicted as I am, for naught is there more shameless than a ravening belly, which biddeth a man perforce be mindful of him. Though one be worn and sorrowful in spirit, even as I have sorrow of heart, yet evermore he biddeth me eat and drink, and maketh me utterly forget all my sufferings, and commandeth me to take my fill. But do ye bestir you at the breaking of the day, that so ye may set me, hapless as I am, upon my country's soil, albeit after much suffering. Ah! And may life leave me when I have had sight of mine own possessions, my thralls, and my dwelling that is great and high. So spake he, and they all assented thereto, and bade send the stranger on his way, for that he had spoken aright. Now, when they had poured forth and had drunken to their heart's content, they went each one to his house to lay them to rest. But goodly Odysseus was left behind in the hall, and by him sat Arete, and godlike Alcinous. And the maids cleared away the furniture of the feast, and white-armed Arete first spake among them, for she knew the mantle and the doublet, when she saw the goodly raiment that she herself had wrought with the women her handmaids. So she uttered her voice, and spake to him winged words. Sir, I am bold to ask thee first of this. Who art thou of the sons of men, and whence? Who gave thee this raiment? Didst thou not say indeed that thou camest hither wandering over the deep? Then Odysseus of many counsels answered her, and said, 'Tis hard, O queen, to tell my griefs from end to end, for that the gods of heaven have given me griefs in plenty. But this I will declare to thee, whereof thou dost question and inquire. There is an isle, Ogygia, that lies far off in the sea. There dwells the daughter of Atlas, crafty Calypso, of the braided tresses, an awful goddess. Nor is any either of gods or mortals conversant with her. Howbeit some god brought me to her hearth, wretched man that I am, all alone. For that Zeus with white bolt crushed my swift ship, and cleft it in the midst of the wine-dark deep. There all the rest of my good company was lost. but I clung with fast embrace about the keel of the curved ship. And so I was borne for 9 whole days. And on the 10th dark night the gods brought me nigh the isle of Gygia, where Calypso of the braided tresses dwells, an awful goddess. She took me in, and with all care she cherished me and gave me sustenance, and said that she would make me to know not death nor age for all my days. But never did she win my heart within me. There I abode for 7 years continually, and watered with my tears the imperishable raiment that Calypso gave me. But when the 8th year came round in his course, then at last she urged and bade me to be gone, by reason of a message from Zeus, or it may be that her own mind was turned. So she sent me forth on a well-bound raft, and gave me plenteous store, bread and sweet wine, and she clad me in imperishable raiment, and sent forth a warm and gentle wind to blow. For 10 days and 7 I sailed, traversing the deep, and on the 18th day the shadowy hills of your land showed in sight, and my heart was glad. Wretched that I was, for surely I was still to be the mate of much sorrow. For Poseidon, shaker of the earth, stirred up the same, who roused against me the winds and stopped my way, and made a wondrous sea to swell. Nor did the waves suffer me to be borne upon my raft, as I made careless moan. Thus the storm wind shattered the raft. But as for me, I cleft my way through the gulf yonder, till the wind bare and the water brought me nigh to your coast. Then, as I strove to land upon the shore, the wave had overwhelmed me, dashing me against the great rocks at a desolate place. But at length I gave way and swam back, till I came to the river, where the place seemed best in my eyes, smooth of rocks, and withal there was a shelter from the wind, and as I came out I sank down, gathering to me my spirit, and a mortal night came on. Then I gat me forth and away from the heaven-fed river, and laid me to sleep in the bushes and strewed leaves about me, and the gods shed over me infinite sleep. There among the leaves I slept, stricken at heart, all the night long, even till the morning and midday, and the sun sank, when sweet sleep let me free. And I was aware of the company of thy daughter, disporting among them among the sand, and there was she in the midst of them, like unto the goddesses. To her I made my supplication, and she showed no lack of a good understanding, behaving so as thou couldst not hope for in chancing upon one so young, for the younger folk lack wisdom always. She gave me bread enough, and red wine, and let wash me in the river, and bestowed on me these garments. Herein, albeit in sore distress, have I told thee all the truth. Okay, Boomer. Younger folk lack wisdom. Come on, Odysseus. And Alcinous answered again, and spake, saying, Sir, surely this was no right thought of my daughter, and that she brought thee not to our house with the women her handmaids, though thou didst first entreat her grace. And Odysseus of many counsels answered, and said unto him, My lord, chide not, I pray thee, for this the blameless maiden. For indeed she bade me follow with her company, but I would not, for fear and very shame, lest perchance thine heart might be clouded at the sight. For a jealous race upon the earth are we, the tribes of men. And Alcinous answered yet again, and spake, saying, Sir, my heart within me is not of such temper as to have been wroth without a cause. Due measure in all things is best. Would to Father Zeus and Athene and Apollo, would that so goodly a man as thou art, and like-minded with me, thou wouldst wed my daughter, and be called my son, here abiding. So would I give thee house and wealth, if thou wouldst stay of thine own will. But against thy will shall none of the Phaeacians keep thee. Never be this well-pleasing in the eyes of a Father Zeus. And now I will ordain an escort for thee on a certain day, that thou mayest surely know, and that day the morrow. Then shalt thou lay thee down overcome by sleep, and they the while shall smite the calm waters, till thou come to thy country, and thy house, and whatsoever place is dear to thee, even though it be much farther than Euboea, which certain of our men say is the farthest of lands, they who saw it. When they carried Rhadamanthus of the fair hair to visit Tydeus, son of Gaia, even thither they went, and accomplished the journey on the self-same day, and won home again, and were not weary. And now shalt thou know for thyself how far my ships are the best, and how my young men excel at tossing the salt water with the oar blade. So spake he, and the steadfast, goodly Odysseus rejoiced. And then he uttered a word in prayer, and called aloud to Zeus, Father Zeus, oh, that Alcinous may fulfill all that he hath said, so may his fame never be quenched upon the earth, the grain giver, and I should come to mine own land. Thus they spake one to the other, and white-armed Arete bade her handmaids set out bedsteads beneath the gallery, and cast fair purple blankets over them, and spread coverlets above, and thereon lay thick mantles, to be a clothing over all. So they went from the hall with torch in hand. But when they had busied them and spread the good bedstead, they stood by Odysseus, and called unto him, saying, Up now, stranger, and get thee to sleep, thy bed is made. So spake they, and it seemed to him that rest was wondrous good. So he slept there, the steadfast, goodly Odysseus, on the jointed bedstead, beneath the echoing gallery. But Alcinous laid him down in the innermost chamber of the high house, and by him the lady his wife arrayed bedstead and bedding. And that brings us to the end of chapter 7, and we're only just a little over time. So far, everything seems to be going very well, which, if anyone knows their classics, this won't last long. So probably as soon as they venture out, there will be troubles. There always are troubles, especially where gods are concerned. Doubly especially so when it's one of the big three of the Greek gods that is particularly pissed at you. Poseidon doesn't take well to being insulted. Yeah, no, it'll be fine. Just we're about 30% of the way through the book. We're gonna finish in the next one. He's gonna be home. It's gonna be great. No worries at all. And yes, rest sounded wondrous. Rest always sounds wondrous. I never get enough sleep. All right, guys. We are going to go ahead and call it here. We came to a good resting spot. We will jump back into this tomorrow. We're, as I said, just shy of a third of the way through the book now. So we're probably about another 4, maybe 5 sessions before we finish. So probably about this time next week, we should be wrapping up. And that seems to be a good pace for this series. So we'll go ahead and adjourn for the evening, and I will hope to see any or all of you tomorrow as we continue with our reading from Odysseus. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye now.